thanks for coming onto the podcast today and, welcome to Pharmacist Diaries, as I always say, which is great. And it's great to have you with me today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to have a chat with you today.
Yeah, I re-looked at your website earlier today and I was getting excited about the conversation that we could have. But I usually kickstart my episodes by asking you why you became a pharmacist in the first place.
So, first of all, growing up in a typical Indian household, you kind of are geared towards medicine. And I was pretty much geared towards medicine, but, why I was because as a child, I grew up with severe asthma and I had numerous ER visits, and hospitalization for over a week. And what really amazed me and what really inspired me was every time I went to the hospital, when they gave me the albuterol, I felt so much better. I was able to breathe again. And I was like, the thing is, what I should clarify is this was all happening before the albuterol inhaler had come out. Because I know it's kind of like you're a lot younger, you're going, why didn't you just take your inhaler at home? There wasn't one, right? So every time you had a flare up and you couldn't control it at home, you literally have to go into the ER. So I had I'm talking monthly sometimes. We were in the ER, and so just waiting for the doctor to help me with my breathing, and then within minutes being able to breathe was just the most amazing thing. And so I wanted to learn how does this happen? What is happening in my body? What am I taking, and how is this working, and how am I able to feel better so quickly, right? So that was kind of my draw, and that was really what inspired me to go into some field of medicine. Basically, I wanted to be that person to help an asthmatic, right?
Yeah, that's a nice personal story, though, isn't it? To kind of
Yeah,
have that connection and see something from a younger age and think, actually, yeah, this is interesting and this is something I could look up or something that I want to see when I'm older or get involved with helping people.
yeah. So that was kind of it. I figured I want to be an allergist, and that's what I wanted to do. And then I went to undergrad and I studied biology, and that's kind of the route here. And then you decide if you want to go into medicine or pharmacy. And really, I kind of honed in on saying, no, you know what? I really just want to learn the drug piece. I don't want to do the procedures. I don't want to do any of that. I really want to learn the pharmacology behind medications. Why do they work in a certain way? How do they respond in our body? How is our body able to metabolize them and allow them to work in the way they do? And so even today, I'm still fascinated by that. I still love learning the mechanism of action of things, how they work. So yeah, that's pretty much where it took me. I've been a pharmacist now for over 20 years. But I've kind of pivoted, in my path.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah.
And I guess when you were doing your, like when you were at pharmacy school, did you know what type of pharmacist you wanted to be at that time?
So at that time, I was kind of toying around with the idea of working for a pharmaceutical company, um, perhaps joining like a health insurance company. We call them PBNs here, pharmacy benefit managers. Something different than
Mm.
the typical. I was kind of looking into those areas. But what ended up happening was I had a job doing home health care when I got out. And then my husband and I went on our honeymoon. We were in Greece for 2 weeks. And then we came back, and the pharmacy department at the company I was working in went under. So I was
Oh
left
no.
without, so I was left without a job. And I took a retail position at a chain where I was living. And so I did that for 6 months. I was a retail pharmacist for 6 months. I was kind of their floater. So I was driving around everywhere, working most days of the week. As a new grad, that's what we do, right? We take what we can, and we work really hard. And then I got into consulting, which is, I don't know if you call it the same thing over there, but basically I'm a pharmacist consultant where I go into nursing homes and psych facilities, and I review their medications, and I make recommendations based on federal guidelines and therapeutic guidelines. So I'm making recommendations to nurses and to physicians monthly. We do monthly visits, and then you know, the doctors respond back to whatever I say, and they follow through on my notes. And then we just, keep doing that every month. So that's kind of what I did for about 18 years.
Oh, nice. That's a
Yeah,
long time, actually.
it is a very long
Um,
time.
how did things develop in kind of that? I mean, that's nearly 2 decades. How did things change? Like for pharmacy, were doctors um, enjoying having a pharmacist in their presence? And did they take your recommendations well in the beginning, or did that kind of mold over time?
So, it really depends on the physician, on the doctor, right? There are some that love the collaboration. And I would say that in a certain number of my facilities, once the doctor trusted me, he would look forward to my recommendations. He would want me to approach him and help him out. So I think it's building that relationship that really helped. What I can say is from when I started the job in the early 2000s, the federal government had this like stipulation where they wanted the pharmacist to flag 9 or more, any resident who was on 9 or more medications. Okay, that included supplements. So every now and then I would find the patient and I would write a note, of trying to figure out a way to minimize what they were on. If there was anything that was duplicate, whatever, I'd make a recommendation. I mean, fast forward 10 years, every single patient is on 9 or more medications. I mean, as of 2 years ago, I would say our average in a nursing home is probably about 20 medications.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's different.
Yes. It's really different. It's definitely
I
very
mean,
different.
nursing homes here are quite similar, obviously. There is a
Mm-hmm.
lot of polypharmacy.
Exactly.
Um, we do have, in the same way, pharmacists. So they're not called consultant pharmacists. They're just clinical pharmacists, similar to what they would be doing in like an inpatient setting in a hospital, or what they would do in a pharmacotherapy team. Um, it kind of comes under the same umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have hospital pharmacists who have links with the nursing homes and kind of go out as an outreach service. And sometimes it would be kind of outsourced in a similar way to kind of what they do in the US. But the concept of what you do in terms of medication use reviews, looking at deprescribing, looking at medications that maybe have been prescribed for 10 years and no one's actually had a chance to review whether or not it's actually required anymore, um, and looking at interactions,
Mm-hmm.
speaking to the patients about swallowing difficulties or having NG tubes, things like that. So the impact of the role can be huge, and it's really a rewarding experience. And to do that for 18 years, that's amazing, because that's a really long time to be in one place, especially with the elderly. I mean, I'm in pediatrics now, so and I did enjoy working with the elderly, but it is hard work. There is so much; it's very different in terms of what you think about.
Yes.
In terms of the medications, adherence. Like with children, we find adherence is so good. 90% of the time, parents are really, really great at adherence. It's not really too much of an issue for us.
Right.
Um, but formulations become an issue. Trying to find liquids or crushing tablets, that becomes our major kind of impact. Pharmacokinetics becomes a massive thing in terms of working with the doctors, and obviously checking doses and things like that. Um, So to do that for such a long period of time is amazing. I've only been a pharmacist for 11 years, so the fact that you've been a pharmacist for 20 years plus is inspiring in itself. Um, when you were doing that job, did you find it was very demanding in terms of the hours, and was it a really busy environment?
So, why I stayed for 20 years is because it's actually a very flexible environment.
Okay.
So in the United States, it's actually a regulation that a pharmacist is required to go into every nursing home once a month. So I basically have to stamp or sign every single chart every month. And so for me, I had my accounts. If I was full time, I had my 10 facilities, and I would make my schedule of when I wanted to visit them. So, you know, as a mom, as a working mother of two kids, when my kids were young, it was the perfect job. And then I was able to set up a situation where I was doing reviews from home. So that was really great. When my kids were really young, I was able to work from home. I could work while they are at school and then, pick them up, spend the afternoon with them, have dinner, and then start my work again, finish up whatever I had to do. So it was really, really flexible. And I think that's really what kept me there. And to be honest, the level of stress, after 10 years of doing something, it so well, I felt like I could do it in my sleep. So it gets easier, right? Like
Mm.
I know if a patient's on a G tube, exactly what meds are going to work and what aren't and what they should be on. And, it's like, you just know it so well because it is the same medications and, you're very familiar with everything. So yeah, it was a super flexible job. And I think that's what kept me there.
Nice. And also, I guess, with nursing homes, the patients are long term. So you get to know them and you get to know the medication. So when you do their reviews, it becomes easier once you know who they are. Um,
Yeah.
in our like in nursing homes here, generally it's long term patients. So you do get to know the patients and the family members relatively quickly, which is nice, and it's an enjoyable part of the job. Because when you're in the hospital environment, your turnover is huge, and you don't meet the same people necessarily on a regular basis. You might never meet them again. So from that perspective, I guess that must have been enjoyable.
So that was the case the first few years. But nursing homes have changed here a bit. So the last 7, 8 years, I would say they have what you call subacute units, where they have patients who are either intubated or they may be rehab patients, post hip, post knee surgery patients. So they come in for acute, stay, maybe 10 days, two
Okay.
weeks to 1 month. So it has really changed. So that part was getting pretty stressful because you're reviewing a lot of patients, new admits, right? All the time. So that was really different. So
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of an effort that they have going here is to decrease hospital costs. They put patients who are post surgery into nursing homes.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the same here. We have some rehab facilities as well, which are
Mm-hmm.
specific to post surgery, but most of the patients stay in hospital for, I don't know, 5 to 7 days, depending on the surgery, sometimes a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they need a specific amount of rehab, they would go to a separate facility, but not necessarily a nursing home. It's a separate kind of rehab
Yeah.
place that they can spend a few days, and then transition back to the house or wherever they need to go. So yeah, I love finding out the differences between the UK and the US. There are so many similarities, but there are some really interesting things that we each
Mm-hmm.
do. Um, I mean, of course, from an insurance perspective, I was involved with PBM when I worked in Abu Dhabi because I worked for Cleveland Clinic, so I understood a little bit about insurance and how it works and all those codes that we have.
Yeah.
Um, while here in the UK, because healthcare is based through the government, We don't have the same complexities in terms of doing insurance checks when the medication is given out. But we do have a specific kind of list, like a formulary. Depending on the hospital you work and what funding you get, your formulary will be different if you're in one area to another. And what you then get with your kind of primary care physician, or what we call a GP, would be slightly different if you lived in London compared to, Birmingham. Depending on funding, depending on
Interesting.
the diseases, depending on, what the hospital can actually order in for the patients. It's interesting how it works here, but it just works from a different perspective. It's not when the patient's prescribed the drug and then they go to the pharmacy and then they check whether or not the insurance is going to cover it or not. We wouldn't prescribe it if the patient didn't have access to that medication in their local area. We would find something else as the prescription's being written. And they're pretty good with that. You don't get to the point where you turn up to a pharmacy and get told, well, sorry, your insurance is not going to cover it and you have to pay, which I'm sure happens a lot and is a very stressful part of being in retail pharmacy. And I experienced that firsthand in Abu Dhabi many a times. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it was doctors. It was a new hospital, so it's doctors putting in the incorrect indications for what that drug is covered for. And it was just helping to teach them how to use Epic and using the drop down and creating a favorites list and figuring out, paracetamol is used for pain relief, not for, gastrointestinal issues. And they just pick all the wrong stuff. But yeah, it's interesting how it works. There are benefits from, I guess, both ends. So I guess you did that job for such a long time, and during that period, what kind of inspired you to think about health, wellness, and creating the holistic pharmacist?
So I think that there were multiple things that were going on. I had my own issues that had come up, my own health concerns, and they kind of popped up when I took a little sabbatical from work and moved to London. Um, and that was, I would say, like 7, 8 years ago. And, I thought I had outgrown my asthma. When I was like 35, I don't think I'd used my inhaler for years and years. And then a few years later, we were set to move to London, and I started getting asthma attacks. And initially, I thought, this was a few months before our move. Initially, I thought, it's the winds. We have winds and fire issues in California. And we had just had a fire, and I thought, oh, okay, it's from bad air that I'm wheezing. Well, the wind subsided, the fire subsided. Weeks later, I'm still wheezing, and it's not going away. I start myself, I know I'm saying this, but I did start myself on a steroid inhaler, and nothing. I'm still taking the albuterol 4 times a day, not getting any relief, but I don't want to take oral steroids, so I continue on. We moved to the UK, and I'm getting worse. So, and then when we move, I'm saying to my husband, because we moved for his work, I'm like, it's the London air and people are smoking and it's our, I'm trying to find every excuse in the book. I think our flat has mold in it, blah, 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 that this is why I'm so much worse. And I literally started using my daughter's nebulizer in her treatment. I was doing that. I was taking that twice a day and getting some relief. So one day I get on the bus and I go to the gym to take a yoga class. So I get there and I realize that, I need my inhaler. I'm wheezing a bit. And I look into my purse and I did not have my inhaler. And if you're an asthmatic, you know that is like a moment of panic. Because that is something I've always kept under my pillow, in my purse, wherever, since it came out, since it was FDA approved. So very long time. So anyway, I look in my purse and I don't see my inhaler, and I was like a mess. And I said, you know what? it was such a new concept to get on a bus to go to a gym for me that like the thought of going back, not having been able to take my class was just too much. So I'm like, I'm going to still try the class. And if I am significantly worse, I'll take the bus home. So I go into the yoga class. I put my mat at like the back of the class so that I can walk out if I need. And I noticed that the instructor has a very strong French accent. So I'm having difficulty understanding her. So I'm really, really having to focus on every single word she says in order to, be a part of this class and look like I know what I'm doing. 45 minutes later, I'm in Shavasana and I realize that I am no longer wheezing. And I was like in a state of shock. I mean, this has never, ever happened to me. And at that moment, I literally had the biggest aha moment of my life, which was this entire like illness for months that has been troubling me was due to anxiety. Like it was all related to anxiety, Um, it wasn't that, oh, I'm just an asthmatic and this is what happens. You just accept an illness. But sometimes if you really are given that opportunity to think as to why this is happening to me, it's life-changing, So in that moment, I was like, oh my, like I am perfectly fine right now. And what was I an hour ago, right? I was looking for that inhaler, and that had never in my life happened. Literally, I had never been able to breathe just like that. I have always needed medication. So when I left the class, I was like, that's it. I have got to work on my anxiety. I have got to work on this issue. So I started a yoga and a meditation practice like the next day religiously. And within a month, I was off of everything. I was off of everything. I mean, there was nothing wrong with London. There was nothing wrong with anything. It was me, you know? And it really stunned me. And then I started changing up my diet a bit. And I noticed a huge difference in my moods every month, in just how I was feeling, my energy levels. And I was like really starting to see how lifestyle, nutrition, all of that can make a big difference. And the bottom line is realizing that what I was putting into my body, in terms of food, and onto my body in terms of stress, was having a huge impact on my overall health. So that was something that just kind of stayed with me in my years in London. And I wasn't working, so I had time to really dive into that. So I did a lot of reading. I took a lot of courses. And then when we moved back, I started my consulting job again. And going through the charts, I kind of had a different perspective. I was looking at each one, and like I was kind of saying, when I started my career, it was like flag 9 or more meds, flag that. And now I'm looking at patients who have 20, right? 25 meds. And I'm reading their histories and I'm thinking, wow, if they had just made some nutritional and lifestyle changes, just simple changes in their life, their outcome would have been a little bit different, right? Just a little bit different. Maybe they wouldn't, need an amputation because of their diabetes. They wouldn't be on a dialysis, um, and so that was something that really sparked something in me. The combination of coming back from this experience and this change, from living in the UK and looking at my work from a different perspective, made me think I really want to work on prevention, on disease prevention. And so I went back to school. I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and I became a holistic health coach. And from that, I turned it into the holistic pharmacist. And I actually quit my pharmacy job last year. And so now I do holistic pharmacist full time, which is basically being a coach, a health coach with a medical background, helping clients either um, prevent getting on medications or helping them minimize their medications. And so I find that very fulfilling, and it's very gratifying, especially when you see results on a weekly basis. You can't go wrong with that, right? So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. I know it was a long winded nutshell, but yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's a great story, a very, very unique and great story. But it's led you to building a business of your own and a very rewarding and fulfilling job. And that's amazing. Like
Mhm.
that has some real value and some real kind of significance to your life. And it took, you know, wheezing in a yoga class to get that aha moment, and that
Seriously,
is incredible. That is, yeah, it's a really cool story. That's Thanks for sharing that.
no problem.
um I mean, when it comes to health and wellness, like, I understand its impact and I care about it in my life so much, and I wish everybody would understand its value and its importance, in terms of improving your general health and preventing so many diseases from occurring. And lifestyle medicine is slowly becoming quite a big thing in the UK. We're really excited. I can see so many more people kind of getting into it, looking into it, doing the courses, trying to become independent practitioners and setting up businesses, which is great. There are medical students out there really kind of fighting to include a lot more nutrition into the doctors courses, because they don't do that much of it, to try and support patients in primary care, because they're really not able to support from a nutritional perspective because they don't have the knowledge, because it's not taught on a regular um, doctor's degree. So things are kind of moving in the right direction in terms of prevention of disease, which I love to see. And it's amazing to meet pharmacists who are also working towards that goal. Tell me more about the course. What did the course involve when you got involved with that?
So it was a 1 year course. It's online, and what's really interesting is as you're going through the course, you're pretty much coaching yourself through it.
I know. Yeah, I was going to say that is probably what happened, and you must have had all of this newfound knowledge, and you tested it on yourself and potentially your family, and it must have been so exciting to, like, gain all this knowledge and then put it into practice.
Yeah, no, it was. It was. I just felt like a thrill listening to lectures, and it's amazing. Sitting in pharmacy school 20 years ago, I never would have thought that I would be here. I just thought I knew I gravitated towards more holistic care. I think just growing up with a Indian background, I feel like my mom was always making up some concoction if I had a cough or cold or whatever. And I disregarded that for a few years while I was in pharmacy school, right? Thinking, that stuff doesn't work. And then I'm going through this course and I'm like, like this goes back to the roots, it goes back to just simple thinking. Like what can we do to keep ourselves healthy? It's go back to the basics, move a little bit, rest, eat real food, right? You can keep it really simple. I think that healthcare or influencers or whoever you want to call it, I mean, it gets complicated if you Google something on health, right? It's like people are so confused. What diet should I be on? What should I do? No, just keep it really simple. I mean, I went through all the diets. I studied all of them in our course. Um, and I did, they would say, try this out for a week, try this out for 2 weeks. And I did do all of that. I experimented with all of that. And what I found worked best for me, is just eating real food and keeping my blood sugars balanced, and making sure I'm getting good protein and fats at most of my meals. And that works well for me in terms of my hormones as well. So, yeah, it's really being the client when you're going through it, and your family is as well. And it's truly fascinating because we also learned meditation. And as a health coach, I teach pranayama to all my clients, because it's so easy for a doctor to say, oh, you got to reduce stress. Well, it's not easy to reduce stress just by saying it. You have to teach techniques. You have to. And even the thought of meditation can be so um, intimidating to so many people, right? Because they're like, I can't, my mind just keeps going crazy. Absolutely. All of our minds go crazy, right? It's a practice, it's a muscle we're building. And using our breath is a tool to get us there a little bit faster. So that's definitely an integral part now of my coaching practice, because I find that every single person needs it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been great. And going back to what you were saying about doctors learning nutrition, well, I think the same of pharmacists, right? Like, how much nutrition did you learn? I know I graduated a lot earlier than you in the U.S. We learned, yes, CP 450, grapefruit, this and that. Like
Yeah.
certain meds should be taken with food, without food, whatever, but not really how food is impacting our bodies. And I feel so strongly that I'm really wanting to reach out to pharmacy schools, because I feel like every pharmacist needs to learn.
No, I'm in complete agreement with you on that, because when you work in retail pharmacy, especially your frontline, you're getting patients coming into your pharmacy with minor ailments, which can a lot of the time be fixed with lifestyle, food, movement advice, which is something that we can easily provide. And patients have easy access to us. Um, and even when you're working in a hospital, there are so many times that I get into conversations even with parents about, what are you feeding your children? How can we make some slight adjustments to improving their diet? Because some of the issues that you're experiencing with maybe allergies or eczema, like kind of loads of horrible kind of dermatology issues, are all related to your diet and what you're feeding your kids,
Mhm.
not just the environment that you're in. And it's easy to look at the environment. Like you said, you looked at mold in the house, like it's
Mhm.
the air quality, getting a humidifier, like maybe it's all the pollution in London. Everyone goes through those kind of barriers and tries to think, is it this, that, and the other? And obviously, they do a lot of allergy testing on kids these days, especially in the hospital I work at. But they really need to hone in on diet and looking at what children are eating and trying to make adjustments to their diet to improve their health and well-being and create good habits for when they get older, and actually get the right nutrition that they need to develop, to grow, to have the brain power that they need for school. Everything in terms of their development, physical, mental, emotional, can be dependent on what they're consuming. um, when you, I guess, started this course, what kind of changes did you make in terms of your children and your family to improve their lifestyle and their nutrition?
So that is also something that is very passionate to me, is raising healthy children, right? And so I've done several talks on this topic, and written some articles, but um, I think that the number one thing as parents that we can do, and I really, this was solidified during my course, although I had been doing it from the beginning, is modeling the right behavior. If when I am boiling some broccoli, or roasting it, or whatever I'm doing, and I present it to my kids, I present it like it's the most amazing thing ever, you know? And they used to fight over it. They literally would be like, I have 5 pieces, so you get 5 pieces. And that only happened because I'm looking at it like it's something delicious, because I truly think it is, right? Or whatever, green beans, carrots. They're not something that, if you eat this, I will give you this. No, you know. So I think that cooking together, getting the children involved early on in what you're doing and how you're eating, how it makes you feel, um, is something that, even if they don't grasp it at that moment, you're definitely planting seeds.
Mm.
And you will see how they will come back to it. I mean, I have an 18-year-old now who's gone away to college, and she's recognizing all these things, and of course I'm secretly smiling inside, right? Because I'm like, she picked up that, she's not feeling so well, because of her eating and her lack of sleep and all these changes that are happening. And she knows how to reset. She basically has the tools. But it's a process, and it's a continuous process. You can't give up, right? If they say, oh, I hate this broccoli, well, that's okay. You try again, and the next week, and you prepare it a different way. And the most important thing is getting them involved. So if you're at the market and you're taking them, you want them to pick out the vegetables. You want them in the kitchen with you. You want it to be an interactive process so that they know it's not being done to them, it's being done with them. They have a decision in this process.
Yeah, no, we do the same. I've never done online shopping because I want to take Liliana to the supermarket. I want her to, well, when she was a toddler, is to understand and be able to recognize fruits and vegetables and what they are and be able to name them, but also getting her involved in picking things, choosing fruits and vegetables that she wants to eat. And with any kind of 2, 3 year old, you have your battles with what they like, what they don't like. But our motto at home was just try it. We don't mind if you don't like it. We just want you to try it. And we do cook it in a variety of ways. And we reintroduce it, 6 to 10 times until we see whether or not she really hates it. Like peas, she's just not a fan. She never has been. I don't think she ever will be. We've tried it a few times. Even at school, she never eats them, but she still loves her greens. So even with like sandwiches at the moment, she in her new school, she is having packed lunches that she brings from home instead of the school dinners that they make, which she's really excited about because she gets to pick what she puts inside her lunch. And I told her all this week, oh, let's make some sandwiches. Like, what is it you want to have? And she was like, oh, Mom, I'll have like chicken one day, ham one day. And I was like, cool, let's do that. But you can't just eat ham or chicken on its own in bread. Like, what else do you want to put inside? Like, I'll give you some ideas. You can put spinach, we can grate carrot, and then you get your vegetables. Like, this is really exciting. So she initially started off with like one or two pieces of like one or two leaves of spinach, and now it's increased to 10, which is so exciting. Um, and she's loving it. Like she's really enjoying incorporating all the elements. Like she knows, like, okay, well, this has protein, this will give me good fats, like this, like yogurts, for example, have like the probiotics. She knows she's getting vitamins from her fruits, she's getting her vegetables in. um, and then even weekends, like we have salad Sundays. But when we build the salad, you get to put whatever you want in it. She gets to choose. So it's not like a traditional, we make the salad, you have whatever's in it. She gets to put anything random, weird and wonderful as it may be, but it's a choice for her. So she has to have 2 bits of green. So she always picks spinach, broccoli, or cucumber. And then she can choose whatever else. She picks chickpeas, kind of corn, peppers, tofu. Like she does like include quite a lot of variety, sweet potatoes. Um, so for us, I just feel like it's trying different things. Like this week, we ordered vegetables that come in a box. And so you get a weekly delivery, but you don't know what you're going to get until you receive it. So, we open the box and it's exciting to see what recipes we can make depending on what arrives. We've been juicing a lot, so she's enjoying juicing and enjoying smoothies. And if we make smoothies, they're usually very green. So we get kind of a lot of nutrition. And for a 4 year old, I think that is a really good start.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
it's definitely an achievement for us as a family, and
Yeah.
only good things can come from that. One thing I struggle with her, which a lot of parents probably do, is getting her to drink enough water. But we have created the hydration club at home. um and she when she goes to the bathroom, she's like, "Mummy, my wee is clear and I am part of the hydration club." So she gets it, that it's needed for a variety of reasons. We've explained, like, it helps your skin, like, it helps your gut, like you need it for energy. So we've tried to give her the reasons why, but we give her the independence to I guess, choose when she's having it. And I try not to show my disappointed face when her water bottle comes home completely full at the end of the day at school, which happens on a regular basis. But again, I'm picking my battles and it's a work in progress. But we're just trying to instill these habits from now so that it just becomes a normal part of her life as she gets older, and it's not something that she has to then work on as an adult. I mean, how many of us don't drink enough water in the day, and it impacts us quite significantly? Um, so when it comes to kids, like, this is one thing that I value massively. Like, I take it really seriously, and I put a lot of time and effort into creating different meals and experimenting with food just to improve her health from a young age.
I mean, what you guys have done is phenomenal, phenomenal. I mean, I'm sure she's going to be teaching all of this in a few years because she is. I mean, it's amazing, you know. And you're right. This is so important, and um, you there's nothing as this is healthy, right?
Mm,
it's just what you do. You're nourishing your body, you know.
yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I've seen it going through the teenage phases. Like when you said leaves, it made me smile because when my youngest was 5, and we would insist on, you know, kind of not insist, but encourage some greens in her sandwich or to have a salad on the side. The first thing she would say, Gia would say, no leaves. I don't want any leaves. The leaves don't taste good, you know. But now she's the first person who's like, every time I go to the market, can you pick up a bag of arugula or rocket, you know, which has a bitter taste. And so you're like, interesting, this child who would never want a leaf, so to speak, now that's just a part of our weekly shopping, right, is to make sure
Mm,
she has salads. I mean, this morning she took one to school as well, with an apple. So it's interesting, you know, just what you're doing is phenomenal. And you know, if other parents did this at an early age, it really does pay off. You know, I can say that
yeah.
with older kids now.
Yeah, and I really hope it does, and I hope that she doesn't find that I'm constantly nagging her, which is what I'm trying my best not to make it out to be and make it a fun situation. Like I said, I don't wanna make her feel bad about the whole, coming home and being disappointed that she didn't drink her water, um, because at the end of the day, you want to encourage them and not make them feel like they didn't do what you asked them to do, and they want to do it for themselves, and they understand how they feel if they do hydrate themselves. Like, oh, actually, yeah, I am really energized today. I'm not coming home from school being really tired because I've done what I needed to do to look after myself. And she's 4. Obviously, the understanding is really basic at this point. But reasoning with her has been a real game changer, and helping her to understand why she needs to do the things she needs to do has really helped to encourage her. I mean, we've been growing vegetables in our garden this year, so I've got onions and garlic growing. Um, we've got raspberries, blueberries, and then yeah. So she's really excited about that. She planted them with me in September, and they'll be ready in the spring. So to dig them up, like, we go to the farm. We have a farm close to us where we can, like, pick your own veg, and then you just weigh it and pay. It has everything that you could get, and you could, you dig it yourself and pick it yourself. And in the summer months, it's so enjoyable to spend 2 hours there,
Hmm.
getting all the veg, cleaning it. Sometimes we freeze it for smoothies and stuff. So it's just exposing them to
Absolutely.
different ways of finding nutrition. It's not just going to the shops and buying stuff. You can grow it, you can pick it.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's so fun.
yeah, and that's a regular kind of weekend for us. Like, her getting involved with cooking, she really enjoys it. Um, and yeah, we try to do things her way. It's not always our recipes, including the different elements of vegetables that she wants to eat in the meal. I do have a strict policy of it's one meal per table. I'm not making separate food for people. And she gets that. So if there are days where I've made something new and she doesn't really like it, um, I'm just like, well, this is it. Eat what you can. I'm sorry that you didn't enjoy it. We'll try something else next time, but this is what you're having. Make sure you feed yourself. Otherwise, you're going to wake up hungry in the night. And she's cool with it. She gets it now. She's happy. She doesn't complain. She's a little bit slow to eat on those days, but she you know, we just need to remember what didn't work and try to find a way to improve that over time. Which is, yeah, it's exciting. And I can see why you are really passionate about what you do. And I can see how implementing this into adults' lives, forget children, and seeing that change for them, and maybe reducing their medication burden and helping them to feel more energized, and making them, they could be sleeping better, moving more, kind of incorporating all that exercise into their routine, weight loss, all of those things that we want to see for our patients would be an extremely rewarding experience for you on a day to day. And you must love your job, is what I'm trying to say, because I can see how much of an impact that probably has on patients.
It does. I mean, just exactly what you were saying, the conversation that you have with your daughter about water and how it energizes you and all the benefits. I mean, I'm having that each week with my clients, who are in their 40s or their 50s or their 60s. Um, and it's amazing when they come back a week later and, they've had the amount of water that I've told them they need, whatever. And they're like, oh my God, I have so much energy. I have so much energy. I don't have that slump at 4 p.m. and I'm not eating as much and I'm not snacking as much. And you're like, yeah, and it was just water. It was just drinking more water. Like, isn't
Mm.
that amazing? You know?
Yeah, simple changes, like you said from the beginning.
Yeah.
Simple changes make a huge difference, and yeah, it's great. I'm really happy that you've kind of not given up your pharmacy life necessarily in your
No.
traditional job, but you've kind of transitioned into something new, which is so exciting for other pharmacists to get involved with. How does it work from a licensing perspective? So you're licensed as like a coach rather than as a pharmacist now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I keep up my pharmacy license, my
Yeah.
pharmacist license for sure. But when I practice under the title of a health coach. So I give my opinion on their medication regimen if they're on, but I just give an opinion. I don't, give
Yeah.
advice or anything like that. Yeah. Um,
I guess, like, in the future, hopefully, these types of clinics will be set up on a national scale where, pharmacists are getting involved, where you might make a recommendation, but yes, a doctor you may need to speak to them to make that change, and they happily support kind of what your advice is, and you can link with a physician to, deprescribe or reduce doses and, do all the necessary tests, whether it's cholesterol, blood pressure, to make sure that, patients are safely changing their medications. But I'm sure it will have a bigger impact than what it is in the moment.
Yeah. So there's a lot of integrative doctors, say in California where I'm from, that have incorporated health coaches as part of their team.
Okay.
Because a doctor can give you a plan, but it's making those changes that is the most difficult part, right? So I think that's where the health coach is so important, is how do you get an individual to make a change? What words do you use? What are you saying to motivate them, right?
Mm.
And how can you make it easy and approachable? That's the most important thing. I think people get so overwhelmed when you leave a doctor's office and they're saying, lose 30 pounds, change your diet, reduce your stress. I mean, where do you begin?
How
Where
do
does
I do it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, where does one
It's for
begin?
the physician A doesn't have time to explain what they need to do and how they need to do it. And a health coach will really dive deep into that patient's life, into what they're doing on a daily basis, into their routine, into their bad habits, into what jobs they have and how that impacts what they're doing, and making those small changes and those little habits that you kind of switch on a weekly or, daily basis they all build up, and they end up having a huge impact, and transitioning them to do that. I mean, I do that with myself, um, even something as simple as drinking water. Like, I do struggle with it. I know I need to do it every day. It's on my mind every single day that I need to drink at least 2 liters. But sometimes when you're really busy at the hospital and you're running around and I don't carry it with me, 5-6 hours have gone by and I realize, oh no, I haven't had anything to drink. And then I go and find, my water bottle and end up drinking like a liter in one go. But I write it down in my diary now. I write it as a goal every single day, like tick it off. It has to be done. Like it's an absolute necessity for your survival, Anisha. You need to drink 2 liters of water. End of story. And once I write it down, once I see it on paper, and once I actually get to tick it off at the end of the day, I have that kind of self satisfaction that I've done something basic in terms of my needs. And we even started a family sort of habit tracker. So we put the 30 days of the month, we put all of our habits. They're really simple, like brush your teeth, like have a shower, get sufficient sleep, drink your water, 5 fruits and vegetables per day. We all have kind of the same basic things, the three of us. And then Liliana has like additional ones. She's 5 minutes of bike riding practice a day and kind of some fun stuff, that's in her diary. Reading, because she started to read now. So her practice for reading, she needs to read a book every single day without fail. If she gets, a bonus, happy days, but she needs to do a minimum of one. So those kind of habits, and to tick it off at the end of the day before we all go to bed, is really satisfying. It's something we do as a family. It's like a reward chart that you would give to a child at school. But again, it has a huge impact on what we're doing. And you can see your progress. Like some months you're like, wow, I did this every single day without fail. Like I was dedicated to looking after myself.
Yep.
And that, again, visualizing that and not just telling yourself that you need to do it and forgetting,
Yeah.
does make a difference to my day to day, which is
I,
good.
I love that idea. I actually love it. I will tell clients to set reminders on their phone, especially
Yeah.
for the water, because people are so, everything's on the phone now, right? So set reminders. And I think as a health coach, I'm the one checking in, via text. Okay, did you exercise today? How many steps did you get in? What's the goal for tomorrow? How are we going to accomplish this? But yeah, I do like this chart idea. I think I might have to suggest that to a few of my
No,
clients.
it's really good. I mean, you're right. Obviously, the phone works really, really well. But with children, again, like I reduce the amount of kind of time.
Yeah,
Plus, she's 4, so
yeah. She doesn't have her
you
own phone.
reduce. No,
She's not
reducing the
getting
amount.
reminders.
So she's reducing, her screen time. I don't give her much until the weekends, but it's nice to see it visually on paper as something different. It's something that we can do together as a family, and it's not just each of us doing it individually. And we also have accountability, which is it must play a huge impact even for your clients, because they know that you're going to message and check
Mm-hmm,
up on them. So
mm-hmm.
that accountability has a huge impact in the beginning of that transition into health and wellness and supporting their needs. And then slowly, you can step away, and they're telling you, well, actually I went 7 days doing this, like boom, I did
Yeah,
it. And
yeah,
I did it by myself. And once they feel that sense of achievement, you don't need as much accountability, and they start doing it as a habit, which
yeah.
is amazing. And yeah, I just love it. I'm so happy for you. And
Thank you.
I'm really pleased that you've managed to set this up. And it's also really inspiring that, when I see pharmacists setting up their own businesses and becoming entrepreneurs, because it's not something that we learn. It's kind of not the typical, pharmacist that you would see
Yeah.
traditionally, because we kind of follow the routines, and we're very regimental, like type A human beings. So to kind of take that leap of faith and have some courage to try something different and make it work for you is really inspirational. So go you, Bella. Love it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think that was actually, you nailed it. As pharmacists, that's not in our nature, right? Is to be these entrepreneurs, to be on social media, to advertise, to do all this. I mean, it does challenge me. It definitely has been the challenging aspect of building my own platform and building my own business. But it's great. It's great, and I think it's a great way to challenge myself mentally, as well as emotionally. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. And like
So
you said earlier, like you role model the way. not only for your family, but you role model the way for your clients as well. So it keeps you on your toes. You make sure you look after yourself so you can look after other people,
Exactly.
which is
Exactly.
good. That's
Yeah.
again is accountability, and it works and it does its job. So again, happy days.
Yeah. And they hold me accountable, right?
Yeah,
I've got to walk the talk.
exactly. And I mean, you live in Orange County, is that right, in
Yeah.
California? Yeah.
Yes.
So obviously, people care about their health and well-being a lot there, and you've got all the sunshine and the beaches, and you've got everything around you to encourage people to get outdoors and actually move, go for walks, like be in nature. I mean, to be close to a beach would be a huge luxury. Here, obviously, we don't. I mean, we have beaches, but it's not the same. I think, like when I lived in Dubai, like having the heat and the sunshine was a huge motivator for movement. It's very different. It's just expected. You just do it because you can and you can enjoy it. Well, now it's snowing outside and it's -2, so it's a little bit more challenging in
Yes.
terms of motivation, and you feel like you need to stay at home a little bit more, and you feel like you want to slow down. So having the luxury of that climate makes a huge difference, which is great for the population. It keeps people
Absolutely.
healthy.
Yeah, ideally, you'd think.
Mhm. Yeah, you're
But
right.
yeah, but it definitely helps. You know, with my West Coast clients, there is no excuse why they're not getting out and getting their steps in, or getting their sun time. But yeah, we're
Agreed.
blessed for sure.
Oh, it's so lovely having conversation with you tonight, and I'm so pleased to hear your progress. And I look forward to keeping in touch and you letting me know how things kind of progress in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anisha, for having me on. This was
Yeah, no
a lot of
worries.
fun. I love chit chatting about our pharmacy profession and how it's so, just hearing about what's happening out in the UK is very interesting. So thank you so
Yeah, I
much.
think things are changing. Our roles are definitely becoming more diverse. The variety is definitely having a huge impact. And I kind of look forward to seeing how things develop over time. Obviously, with the podcast, I'm interviewing so many different types of pharmacists. So it's always interesting to see kind of what's happening across the ocean. It's interesting to see, even in the UK, how things are developing and changing with time. So it's an enjoyable part of, I guess, having this platform. But it was lovely to see you again and catch up. And I hope you have a good day otherwise.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good